All right, guys. Well, welcome. It is Wednesday at 3 p.m. That means it is time for the Omega Sports Show. I am Dell with Omega Sports, and we are happy to have you once again this week. It's another Mega Wellness Wednesday. We've got Mega Wellness partner Dr. Scott Jablonka with Carolina Movement Doc. Scott, hello. Good afternoon.
Hey Dell, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. So, Doc, you're beaming in from Charlotte today.
Yes, CLT, good old 704.
There you go. Well, I'm excited to have you on the show today because for the Mega Sports Show, that's a big deal for us. We've got a new Mega Wellness partner. We're going to talk to you about what is Carolina Movement Doc. We're going to talk about what brought you to North Carolina because you're coming from the up north, upstate New York, coming down to North Carolina. You made the trek a few years ago, and you've really established quite a brand for yourself in the Charlotte area. And then we're going to talk about, of course, we can't forget the new podcast that we have going on, our Mega Sports Move More podcast, which, of course, you're our fantastic host.
Yes, thank you for that. I'm having a real good time with it. It's bringing me back to my radio days from back in the day, so I'm having a blast, man.
Yeah, we lucked out, Scott. We saw you. We were following you on Instagram at Carolina Movement Doc. We loved your content. We said, we know you are obviously really big into CrossFit, but being a performance physical therapist, we knew that you could bring a lot of expertise. But we loved your voice. We loved everything. And then when we got a chance to talk to you about a podcast, you're like, dude, I've been doing this. This is what I'm made for.
Yeah, man, it's like my passion. So this is pretty sweet. So when you guys got a hold of me, I'm like, this is perfect. This is the best of both worlds without having to go back to school for broadcast journalism.
Yeah, nice. Absolutely. Yeah, you definitely are fans. I know at Omega, you've won over everybody at Omega Sports, from leadership all the way through to our active play experts. Everyone's loving the podcast. Obviously, it's a big topic for us to encourage folks to move more, especially during the pandemic. That's been an overriding theme that we continue to keep powering through. Yep, move. So we'll talk about, today what Carolina Movement Doc is. We'll learn more about you. And then, of course, we'll talk about the podcast, and we'll do a sneak preview on this week's podcast. Just yesterday, Scott, we just dropped your latest podcast. You're up to 4 right now.
Yeah, I'm reeling them out. I got a whole bunch more planned, and I plan on bringing on a lot more other professionals within the movement industry to kind of collaborate with me, just so people aren't just listening to my voice the entire time. And it's good to collaborate with other professionals because, let's face it, I don't know everything, and the things that I don't know, I have a lot of friends and professionals that do. So it's nice to have that collaboration and provide the content to all the listeners out there in the podcast world, because it's only going to exponentially make it better.
Yeah. Well, and I love when we watched you on Instagram, you were doing some Instagram lives and you had some guests come on. So I definitely look forward to hearing more guests. Although I will say people are loving the podcast with just you, but as you're bringing on more experts, that just, I think, benefits everyone. And then, of course, what's really special today is we've got some questions that came in that you're going to do a quick Q&A. So folks that know a little bit about you wanted to send in some questions, some that are just basic movement questions, some are very specific. I think I remember a runner asking very specific questions. So at the end of the show, we'll kind of go through those questions and give you a chance to really show your expertise.
I'll take it. Yeah, bring it on. I like this ad-lib stuff. This is cool.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, so here's how it's going to work, Scott. So we're gonna have you hold on for me because I got to do my business, which is the Omega News. I got to share with everyone some Omega News, and then we'll bring you back on and we'll get to know you and all the things Carolina Movement Doc. Okay.
That sounds awesome, man.
All right.
Good.
All right. So Omega News. Really, if you've been checking your emails today, we just kicked off our new week of opportunities for folks to save more and to get more in our stores. So if you haven't seen it right now, if you're a tennis player and you're in North Carolina, and I know there's a lot of you out there because I've seen the numbers. I've seen the fact that tennis is one of the most popular sports, especially over last year. More and more people have picked up tennis. So guess what? Omega is not going to slow down our tennis program in our neighborhood sports store. We're actually picking it up. So there will be several announcements coming out over the next several weeks about how we are now going to be your neighborhood tennis shop. So all you leagues, all you players out there, make sure you're checking your emails, because the first thing we've launched already, which has been a killer launch for us over the weekend, we decided, you know what, everyone needs tennis balls. There's a lot of news that's chattering around about the fact that it's very hard to get tennis ball suppliers these days. We've secured what we needed to. We've got more on the way. So we wanted to make sure that everyone's out there playing this fantastic sport. So we are giving away 2 free cans of tennis balls. That's 2, not 1, 2 cans of tennis balls for any purchases that you have in our tennis department. So if it's shoes or rackets, if you're spending $75 or more, we're going to walk away with 2 free tennis cans, balls of tennis can balls. So that's something that no one's offering right now. Plus, you match that with our superior service in stores. You're getting expertise. You're finding the right products, and you're walking away with things that you're going to need anyways. And we basically said, what can we give people that they absolutely need that we have in supply? And that was, of course, tennis balls. Everybody's wanting tennis balls. So you can certainly buy more, but you're going to walk away. If you're spending $75 on shoes or on tennis shoes and or tennis rackets, you're going to be walking away with those extra cans so that you can make sure that if you're like me and you're hitting them over the fence or they're going out and you don't feel like chasing them, you can just pop open another can and you're good. So, of course, make sure you're checking your email. Make sure you're checking us out online at omegasports.com. We've got a lot of new inventory coming in. I heard that Hoka One One, we have a new order coming in. So if you are a Hoka fan, make sure you're checking your emails and making sure that you're stopping into our neighborhood sports stores because we do have Hoka. If it's not already in the stores today, it's on its way. And then another thing that I wanted to point out, our friends over at On, let me see if I can do this here. Our friends over at On, we've got some new apparel that's arriving in stores. So for all of you folks that have touched and felt and understand the luxury and the technology on apparel, make sure you're checking out what's new in stores. Our head of running, Dan Keller, has been working with On. We've got some new looks in the stores, some refreshed looks in the stores, some fantastic garments, if you will, that will help you continue to run more and do all that movement that you need. I mean, this stuff looks so good that if you're not running, you can just put it on and go on out. I mean, it looks that good. On has really created what I would call staple pieces to just add to any wardrobe. So again, my 2 rules are follow us on social media, make sure you're checking your emails. We've got some fantastic things coming up, but the headline here today is that if you are a tennis player or if you're thinking about playing more tennis, make sure you go to your neighborhood sports store because only in stores right now will you be able to pick up 2 free cans of tennis balls with a purchase of $75 or more on tennis shoes or tennis rackets. Whew, that was a lot. All right, so tennis fans, this one's for you. Enjoy this week. We've got more tennis news coming up over the next couple of weeks. Some big news, some big offers, some big new arrivals. Make sure you're staying with us, okay? All right, so now I want to go ahead and bring Scott back. But before we do, let's talk. We're going to talk about Carolina Movement Talk. We're going to talk about all the fantastic things that he's doing in the Charlotte market and beyond on his social media channels to help people. I'm going to read this to you guys. He's helping athletes recover better, move better, and perform better and without pain. So I want to give you guys a glimpse of what that may look like with the great video that Scott supplied us. So let's go ahead and play that video. Glimpse, right, Scott? Just a glimpse of some of the great things that you do. Now, that was a mixture of your physical therapy. So I saw things like needling, right, which you can talk a little bit more about, and then really helping people through certain strength movements.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's all inclusive. But first, shout out to my man Bruce Williams. He's the guy that actually shot and put together that video. He's the photog phenom, really popular in the Charlotte area, but he's expanding all over the place. So shout out to my man Bruce for that. That was an awesome video. Yeah. So a lot of that what you saw in that video was a little bit of the hands-on approach that I like to do. I kind of dub myself a manual therapist, trying to help you through my manual touch. And then after we do something passive, we do something active too. So something movement-based. So whatever kind of gets you out of pain and moving better. And that's where my expertise really kind of lies.
Yeah. Well, so let's take it back a little bit. So Scott, when we got to meet you, when we started talking with you about the Omega Sports Move More podcast, we learned obviously you are from upstate New York.
Yes,
You've got your credentials out in New York, and then you decided to move to North Carolina. Let's start there. What brought you down to North Carolina?
Have you ever had a winter up in upstate New York? That's pretty much what brought me down to Charlotte, North Carolina. So I had to come down here, work, weather, life, money, and to be honest with you, I was just in a job that was kind of stuck, and I needed a change. I wanted a different clientele. I wanted to practice the way I wanted to practice. So after I kind of got out of there, I got down to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I really started to hone in the skills that I did have, and I had a lot more freedom to use these skills too. So that kind of just opened up the world for me.
Yeah, and so you've been here for many years now. So is it 5 years? Is that right?
Pushing 6 years now. Yeah, 5.5, pushing 6 years. Yeah.
And since you've been here, you've been really establishing yourself as, a prominent, go-to performance physical therapist. I mean, I know you've held some big roles. You're currently at Carolina Orthopedic. And then, of course, from the work that you've done there, you've been able to establish yourself as, again, an expert in the market, working with athletes, working with anyone that's with injury. I know that's a big thing. And then you found even more of a passion in Carolina Movement Doc. How did that come
about? Yeah, exactly. So my day job, I guess you could call it, kind of helps me kind of
Okay, I think it looks like we lost him for a second there. All right, well, we're waiting for Scott to come back in. I will say one of the things that I want to encourage everyone to do is go ahead and follow Carolina Movement Doc. That's the Instagram channel on the page right now. We're going to wait for Scott to go ahead and get back on the channel here. One thing that I know I'm waiting for Scott to talk about is the fact that he's built up such a good brand with Carolina Movement Doc right now that he is an in-demand ambassador. I know just this weekend he had a great event that him and his wife Tori put on. RX Stream Challenge or Games is something that I want him to talk about. And then, of course, I can't wait for him to talk more about the Beers and Burpees charity event that he's been a great ambassador for. Let's see if we have Scott back on now. Okay, well, not yet. All right. Well, I'm going to continue to talk for Scott right now. In fact, I think what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and give you guys, we talked about Carolina Movement Doc, Scott being the host of our podcast. We talked about that earlier in the show. I want to go ahead and give you a quick sneak preview, if you will, on a podcast that we just dropped yesterday, his newest podcast on compression garments. Let's see if we can go ahead and play that.
2018, there was a meta-analysis, which is a great analysis, takes a lot of other research and kind of draws a conclusion from a whole slew of research as far as what these particular articles found, and it kind of draws one general conclusion based on their findings. And it determined that compression garments were, in fact, effective at reducing both DOMS and perceived fatigue post-exercise. Here's a caveat. It was only second to formal sports massage / body work. All right. So the question lies, and I get this, I still to this day, hey doc, should I go get a massage or should I go get some compression garments? And I'll say this 9 times out of 10. I go, why not both? Why not both? All right. Both are proven to work. So why not try a little both?
All right. Well, we've got Scott back here.
Technology.
Yeah, that's okay. I tried to stretch a little bit. So one of the things that I said while you were, trying to get back on is the fact that you built such an established brand for yourself that then now you kind of, morphed into this Carolina Movement Doc, and you're an in-demand expert. So I talked about the fact that you just had a recent event over the weekend, and then of course being an ambassador for huge events like Beers and Burpees, the charity event in Charlotte. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so October 2nd, the whole kind of CrossFit fitness community comes together for one giant event. It's an all-day event, in which case we have it's a big fundraiser, which yes involves beer, hence Beers and Burpees, but you don't have to drink it. But it just grows every year. And when I was chosen to be an ambassador for it, to get some of my members and some of my followers to come in, even from beyond the Charlotte area, to kind of participate in this. So it's a workout together. You sign up for heats. You're literally there all day if you really want to be. There's tons of vendors. There's a huge community, and honestly, it's just a whole day of positivity. So it goes on October 2nd. If anybody's interested, and I would highly encourage you to look this up, Beers and Burpees. Follow them on Instagram, Facebook. Sign up, get to know them a little bit. Everything benefits the CLT Foundation, which is an awesome, awesome foundation.
Yeah, the charity organizers actually set up a great foundation that all of the proceeds go to. So definitely make sure that, I'm sure we'll get up on the screen the Beers and Burpees handle for Instagram. Yeah. But one of the things that I want to just kind of stop and pause on is the fact that, I think we should recognize, why in the world is Omega talking to a CrossFit guy? Yeah. What are we doing, Scott? What are we doing with a CrossFit guy?
Yeah, what are you doing with it? Honestly, brilliant to kind of reach out to me, because there's more to the fitness world than yoga and running and tennis. In CrossFit, it's becoming more and more popular, or the functional fitness industry, if that's the label you want to put onto it. We're not going anywhere, to be honest with you, and we're good people. We promote movement, so to reach out to me is a good idea, only because I do nothing but assess motion, assess movement. And part of CrossFit, of course, is running. Some of it is flexibility, okay? And a lot of this has a lot of translation throughout all kind of industries of the fitness world. So CrossFit is just kind of my niche, I guess, if you will, all right? But on top of that, what we have to understand is, before I even found CrossFit, I was a huge soccer player all through high school and college, dabbled in a little bit of semi-pro. Wasn't good enough to make the team, so I kind of dropped out of that. And then I went to the triathlon world. So as far as long distance swimming, running mechanics, cycling, I really nerded out on a lot of that stuff too. So I've brought that as part of my expertise, almost like on the back burner, and then CrossFit is the meat and potatoes of what I do. So all I do all day, every day really, is analyze movement. So either if I'm treating for a Carolina Movement Doc, if I'm coaching in the CrossFit gym, that's what I do. So I'm getting reps, I'm getting expertise, I'm getting experience. And when it comes to analyzing movement and knowing what's good, how are you moving well, maybe we add load here, maybe deload it, almost seeing the injury before it happens and stopping it in its tracks. That's what makes me so good, and I think that's why you guys brought me on, because that can translate into the running world, stopping overuse injuries before they happen, helping you out, what shoes to decide, what apparel, what recovery tools, water, goo, nutrition, all that good stuff. That's my domain, that's my jam. So that's why I'm here. That's why I joined the Omega team. I believe that's why you guys reached out to me, and it's been really good ever since.
Absolutely. And I think it's also but we need to be really the world, just changed for a lot of folks. And we found that people were not only running more and moving more, but they were also looking for home gym equipment. They were looking for exercise bands. They were really trying to stay as healthy as possible and to stay as mobile as possible, which is a huge thing that we were really kind of leaning into. So I would say, why are we working with a CrossFit guy? Which, one, you're not a CrossFit guy, you're a doctor, right? You've got the credentials, you've got the expertise, and you have a passion for CrossFit, and you certainly have built a lot of credibility in that genre. But really, what I love what you said is you analyze movement, and it's really that part, that wheelhouse is what we really need to be pulled along with, because we need to be able to supply all of our customers with whatever they need to be moving more.
Correct.
Absolutely. So we got a little glimpse of your podcast, and that podcast, I have to go back to the first one. Now, if people don't realize this, when we do these podcasts and we say, hey, would you like to be on it, or you want to host it, or like, let's figure out something, we do what's called a test. We do a test recording and we say, let's see how it goes. We provide you an outline. We give you a little bit of scripting. And I know our producer, who you're not going to hear on camera right now, is going to tell you how much Scott just knocked it out of the park. And we were so just impressed, and we loved it. And I will say, I have heard people in Omega, myself, Mary, we all talked about it, because that was the one that you talked about. I'm going to make sure I say it correctly. It's the wellness continuum, right? It's the continuum from wellness to fitness.
Yeah.
Or sickness, wellness to
fitness. Yeah, kind of what the CrossFit world kind of preaches and what it's kind of built on as far as health.
Yeah. And really, the main takeaway from that is that, especially in these times where everybody's worried about health, and there's such things like pandemics that could take us out. Now it's the fact that what can we do to prevent chronic disease? I remember you talking a lot about that on the podcast, and it was the fact that we have to get stronger. So whether you want to do CrossFit or you don't, necessarily think CrossFit is your jam, it's about, getting stronger. It's not just being healthy and not just, yes, eating right, doing movement and staying active is important, but also that need to get stronger. I think a lot of people heard you loud and clear in that first podcast, which of course they continue to keep hearing as a reoccurring theme.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole fitness, kind of mind frame that I'm trying to pound into people's heads. I want to burn it in their brain that, it's not just CrossFit, it's fitness, whatever your level of fitness is. And ironically enough, recent study just showed that fitter people or exercise, physical activity helps reduce the severe effects of this pandemic, COVID-19. Shocker. Right? All right. So that kind of builds on the fact that, fit people, they're more resilient. They're more likely to kind of fight off an external force on them. So when it comes to, heaven forbid, we should get another pandemic, all right, fit people are set themselves up for success. If someone who is more on the sicker side, they're in dire straits. So it's almost a coin flip whether you survive this stuff or not. So rule of thumb, be fit. It's going to save you in the long run.
Yeah. And then, of course, in Omega Sports, the last podcast that you just dropped, yesterday's podcast, talked about compression garments. And the little clip that we watched was you saying, the difference between compression and kind of manual therapy or massage therapy. And I loved your answer. Why not just do both? Why not both?
Yeah, I hate this all either or thing. Should I do this? Should I do that? And you can kind of go back and forth and juggle in your mind. When you have two things that work, why not just do both, guys? Okay? It's not going to hurt you. If anything, it's probably just going to help you too. And people hate when I say that because they want me to give them one answer. And I do give them an answer. It's the right one. It's both. Why not both?
Yeah. I think what I also appreciate, and I know our listeners and our viewers will appreciate, is that Omega Sports, I know over the last year, and especially now going into this new, world, is that we're not just saying stay active anymore. We're not just saying run more. We're not just saying move more. We actually are now really putting movement in the same category as recover, because our recovery is just as important. Making sure that you have the right things to make sure that you can still be active, you can still keep moving, is just as important. And that's why when we saw the great, again, I got to do another shout out to your Instagram page. When you have shown these videos that are giving these advice and these tips for folks to, do a couple of things. One, do movements correctly, right? I see a lot of technical detail in your posts. And then it's also reminding people, one, that it's okay to mess up. And number two, it's okay to take a day off and rest.
Yeah. So it's a little mixture of both. So kind of have the best of both worlds as far as, a lot of videos, a lot of how-tos, trying to keep it as simple as possible because, we can complicate the daylights out of this stuff. So the simpler, the better. And then there's some, I guess you could say, motivational stuff, something that comes to mind to kind of help people understand that, it's a process. Perfection is not the goal. Consistency and persistence, that's the goal too. So just to remind them that, this is a journey with not really a destination that you're going to get, but it's always a process to try to get there anyway. So it's motivational at the same time.
Yeah. And of course you're in Charlotte. So, for folks that are in Charlotte, we want to obviously encourage them to see you, but also for folks that may say, I like what this guy's saying, let me go ahead and follow him. Tell us who is the ideal patient, ideal member, if you will, for Carolina Movement Doc?
Somebody that truly wants to get better. That's the ideal person. And to be honest with you, it's the individuals that don't think that they can do something, or they've already kind of counted themselves down and out. A lot of times, those are the harder ones to deal with because half of what I do has to be to convince them that it's okay to move and they can get better. So the ideal Patient, I guess, or client is somebody that truly wants to get better and they want the advice to do that. And that's where I come into play. So usually if they come in to see me, they've already kind of know who I am, because a lot of what this stuff is word of mouth, or, he said, she said, or it's on social media too. So they kind of already know who I am. They know my personality. They know they're going to get this blatantly honest approach, this no nonsense. And if they really, truly want to get better, that's my wheelhouse. And usually 10 times out of 10, they get better, and it's beautiful. So if you're this kind of person that you don't know where to go because there's so many clinicians out there in the world and you don't get any direction, I'm your guy. I'm your guy.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to say there's people who maybe are hesitant because they've been injured before, right? So now come to someone that can help prevent that from happening again. There may be people who say, you know what, I've never done anything like this in ever, and I'm scared and I don't know what to do. I think it's important to, point out the fact that it's not an intimidating environment. I mean, I love when I see your page and I see your videos, you're working with all different levels of fitness.
Yep, absolutely. So from younger individuals to, honestly, we call it the older individuals. I hate saying old because that's such a crap term. I'll say my veterans, my veteran movers. So I'll see them all day, every day, and honestly, they move just as well as the youngsters do too. So a lot of times, and I like that you touched upon that, Del. Somebody who is hesitant. Sometimes they've been to therapy before. They've tried physical therapy. I guarantee you have not tried me. I'm going to go ahead and say that 10 times out of 10, all right? Because I believe I'm a different breed. I'm part of kind of like a small niche or small group of individuals, of like-minded individuals that own their own stuff, have built kind of their own brand, their own practice, who devote their life to really helping people move better. So I think if you've tried therapy before and it didn't work for you, I don't think you've tried me before, all right? Yeah. So if that's the case, if you're hesitant, if you really don't know what you're doing, you want some guidance, but you don't feel like you've got it before, that's where I step in. I'm just different. I'm just different in the best way you can possibly imagine.
Yeah, I love that. And I know, again, I encourage people to check out the podcast because I know you sprinkle in great success stories. Certainly on your page, you have some success stories. And then, of course, you've got a website that I know you're continuing to grow your brand and continuing to put a bunch of things. I think what I loved about hearing early on what your goals were is not only are you trying to help clients or patients, you're also helping other practitioners that are out there, because you have become such a go-to resource. You've become such an expert that you've branded yourself as someone who gets it. Maybe, to your point, doing something a little different, where other experts are now following you saying, hey, I'd love to be able to do what you do. I'd love to learn a little bit more. And I think that's great. So I think the evolution that I know you're on with Carolina Movement Doc is going to not only help patients, but it's also going to help other providers out there.
Oh, absolutely. If I can help other providers get better, and that's not to say that I am the gold standard, end all be all, because let's face it, every interaction I have with another clinician, whether they're learning from me, odds are I'm also learning from them as well. So selfishly, I'm kind of benefiting at the same time. But if they're learning from me, inherently, that's my way of helping other people on an even greater scale. So if I help other clinicians improve their clinical decision-making, their manual skills, their movement assessment skills, and keep them as efficient and effective as possible, if I can do that even electronically, that's perfect, because then I can have even a more profound effect on our movement community. So everybody wins, all right? I'm not on it for myself, okay? Yes, I'm sure the success will come, but if I spread the wealth, kind of like the team approach, because I grew up playing sports as a team, usually as a captain, if I help other people get better, usually everybody wins.
Yeah, and I know you're being modest. I mean, I know you've held roles where you're the head trainer. I mean, you've in your different medical practices that you've been in part of, you've been the training doctor. You've been the one that's been, taking the newbies in, and or just, the new programs that are coming in. You're the one that's kind of setting the course and establishing it. So I know you're being modest, but you definitely have a credibility and a following for being the, trainer to help folks do better.
Absolutely, and it's always a process. I'm always looking to grow, so I never know everything, but I can certainly try. So that's the ultimate goal. Always try to be better. Always.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna test your knowledge with some questions later on. But before we do, I just want to do another quick kind of give you a chance to talk about how much fun the Omega Sports podcast is. And I want to paint the picture here, because one of the things I want to give you a lot of credit on is that, you have a packed schedule. I mean, you have a lot going on. I know you have a 1-year-old, you have a busy family life. You've got, 2 thriving businesses. You're an in-demand coach. So when I said, hey, let's do a podcast, I really was not thinking we would get, maybe one a month. I mean, you've really taken this on and you've done it on your own. I mean, you've definitely stepped up to the plate saying, you know what, I'm serious about this subject. I'm serious about this relationship and this partnership that we have. And, you're doing it late hours. I know sometimes early morning, 3, 4 in the morning after your run. I've seen them come in and I'm just in awe of it. So I want everyone to hear me say, you're making time for these podcasts. This isn't like you have nothing else to do and you're doing a podcast, right? No shame to anyone out there that's doing podcasts, but you're making time to communicate with both the Omega Sports world, our Omega Nation folks, all of our customers. You're making time in your very, very busy schedule. And I just want to make sure that we honor that.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it goes without saying that there's not enough hours in a day or days in a week, to be honest with you. So in order to make more time, you either got to stay up late or get up early. That's how the world works. Nobody got rich working 9 to 5, really. So yeah, a lot of these podcasts are done super late at night in my closet, just for acoustics. But shout out to my wife, Tori. God bless her. She's working with me because it's a full-time job. I got a full-time job, got a 1-year-old, which is a full-time job in and of itself. Let's face it. I've got coaching responsibilities, which I love. I got clients for Carolina Movement Docs. So yeah, I'm juggling a lot of things at the same time. But I'm one of millions of Americans that are juggling a million things at the same time. So when Omega approached me about doing a podcast, of course I jumped at the chance because I actually was on the radio in high school up in Baldwinsville, New York, WBXL 90.5, The Buzz. So when I was doing that, I'm like, man, I would love to go into radio, and that's what my course was. Then obviously I went into physical therapy. So here I get a call from Dell saying, hey, we want to do a podcast. I'm like, yep, I've already got ideas. And I had this conversation with Dell. I remember I was in Tennessee at my parents' house. He said the word move or movement 17 times within about a 10-minute span. And it was at that point I realized, all right, Omega's a real deal. They're speaking my language. Literally, they're speaking my language. I'm like, this is who I want to kind of team up with. This is the kind of family I want to join. And if they like the podcast, I have so many ideas, and I want to spread whatever wealth of knowledge I do have to the rest of the world. And nowadays, podcasts, electronic means, that's the way of doing it, especially since everybody's working from home and they're listening to a lot of other podcasts. It's being very, very, very popular now. So why not throw Omega in there, do a Move More podcast, and at least keep it somewhat entertaining and not boring in the least. And I cannot wait to bring more people on. And I can't wait to hear from everybody else from the community. That's why I'm really looking forward to these questions coming up later, Del.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the key. It's like when we say we have a doctor doing a podcast, this is not a technically, just intense and kind of like, I'm going to not be able to keep up. You really break down, almost every bite of information in a very positive, very upbeat, very fun, relatable way. And I think that's what I want people to do. So I'm going to do one more shout out I want to encourage people to go check out the podcast at podcast.omegasports.com. Or you can go to any of your podcasting platforms, Spotify, iTunes, and now you can download and sign up for the Omega Sports Move More podcast, hosted by our friend, Dr. Scott Jablonka of Carolina Movement Doc. All right, Scott, are you ready for our viewer questions?
All right, put me on the hot seat. Let's go.
All right, so we've got about 4 or 5 questions that came in. I'm sure there will be plenty more. But let's go ahead and attack them one by one. Let's go ahead and get them up on the screen here. All right, so we're going to start in Greensboro, the headquarters of Omega Sports. John from Greensboro says, I want to make sure that I can still run in my 60s and older. What should I be doing more or less of? And again, I'm going to point out, this is a runner asking you a question. This is what I love. We know we work with a lot of runners. So do you have some advice for John?
Yeah, John. So you want to run into your 60s, which is great. You'll never hear me say stop running, even if you feel a little bit of pain. It's my job to make sure that you continue to run. You shouldn't really do less of anything other than maybe less sugar intake, less alcohol intake if that's something that you do. So that's something I probably watch out for, just from a nutrition standpoint, because as our bodies age, sometimes those processes kind of slow down a little bit, and that speaks to your recovery. But as far as mileage wise, as long as you have a solid running program, a tapering program, if that's what you're doing, continue to do that, because age and decrepitude are not synonymous. I repeat, guys, age and decrepitude are not synonymous. So as you're getting older, that does not give you an excuse nor a reason to do less of anything from a movement standpoint. And I say that because I would rather deal with something or an issue or an injury of a movement issue rather than a non-movement issue. So I don't like sedentary lifestyles. You should be doing a fair amount of strength training, not necessarily more, but again, I did a podcast for strength training for runners. Go ahead and look that up, because if you listen to that, you realize that running and strength training are very, very synonymous with one another, and they actually enhance one another. So if I were you, John, you want to run into your 60s, I'd say go ahead, start running into your 70s and 80s as well, and that's okay.
Yeah. And John, if you're shopping already at Omega, we're going to fit you right for the right shoes, because that's going to be very important. As your lifestyle changes and as your mileage changes, you may be increasing your mileage because you've become so passionate and so good at it and proficient at it that you might be doing more miles. So just because you started with one shoe doesn't mean that you don't change your shoe. It doesn't mean that you may not need orthotics or an insole solution. And then I heard, Dr. Jablonka say, taping could be very important. So really, it's about getting smarter as you continue to be passionate about the things that you love.
Bingo.
All right. Well,
Thanks,
John,
John.
we appreciate that question.
John.
Let's go ahead and go to the next question here. Let's see. So I think we have another question coming up not from Charlotte. Charlotte from Raleigh. That's a trick there. Charlotte from Raleigh. How much rest is really required to build muscle mass? That's a good question.
Rest. Yeah, that's a good question. Rest to build muscle mass. So, yeah, typically they say, ACSM says, if you want to give about 48 hours rest between working muscle groups, 48 hours. And I know most people, if they're on a strength training regimen, if they're in a gym a lot, taking 2 days off isn't really going to do a whole lot for them. They don't like that. So, and I get that too. But you're going to want at least a day rest in between heavy sets or heavy intensity, I would probably say. Now, if you're somebody who likes to work out, 5 times a week, that's going to be tough, because it's going to be hard to decipher, what's a work day, what's a rest day, especially if you're doing back and bis, chest and tris / leg day. If you have that, and I get that, usually those kind of programs have your rest day per muscle group already built in. But if you don't have a strict regimented strength training system, I would say a 3-day on, 1 day completely off regimen is probably a safe place to start if you really have no clue where to go. If you're trying to build muscle mass, I'll tell you right now, your nutrition has way more to do with it than what you do in the gym. So I would probably reach out to a registered dietitian to figure out what kind of nutritional aspects you need to do to help what we call mass or bulk, if that's what you're looking for. So nutrition combined with a nice training regimen of maybe a 3-day on, 1 day off would be very beneficial. That's kind of what CrossFit does, was a 3-day on, 1 day off. But inherently, if you're really kind of looking for something, either 3 on, 1 off, or make sure that you have 2 days in between major muscle groups that you work. That'd be my best guess.
I love it. I love that in the first 2 questions, the nutrition came up in both questions. So again, I think
it's always the thing, man. Always, right?
I think that's a good sneak preview to like what people can expect. You're 360ing it for us. It's not just like, hey, you could tell people to just keep working out, running, but you really are thinking about a 360 approach to overall health, wellness, and fitness.
Absolutely. It's an outside in and inside out approach here. So if you're not thinking about nutrition, I think you're really missing a big picture here, guys.
Yeah. Well, I like Charlotte asking that question. I think what I heard is, if you, get a training program if you don't have one. If not, you've got some simple solutions to kind of start with. But obviously, rest is important, but just make sure you're following a good, solid, consistent training program. And then nutrition.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, good. Great question. All right. And great answer. Let's go to the next question. All right. So Devon from Charlotte says, does foam rolling work or is it just a fad? Now, this is something that Omega Sports deals with a lot. So
Yeah.
let's have Dr. Jablonka jump in on this.
Yeah, definitely not a fad. I think it's just very misunderstood. Not a fad. It works. It just, again, and I did a podcast on this. Go figure. It's a matter of what is it that you're talking about. Does it work? Now, most people foam roll for flexibility, and there is some research behind that. I'd probably lean toward it doesn't help with flexibility. I'd say it does help with warming up. Now, the question is, how long do you foam roll for? I see a lot of people just kind of flopping around on the ground for about 10, 15 minutes, just for foam rolling their back. I think it's too much. All you really need is about 1 minute per muscle group to get that sucker warm. It also helps with a little bit of the muscle soreness after activity. So if you go on like a long run, or if you have a heavy lifting session, foam rolling immediately after that, and even the next day after that, helps to reduce a lot of that soreness, what we call DOMS. Delayed onset muscle soreness. So it's not a fad. It's very effective. It just has to be better understood by whoever's using the foam rollers. And nowadays they have these vibrating foam rollers, which are awesome. So Trigger Point is one of my favorite because they're affordable and still effective. And it combines the world of foam rolling with vibration or percussion therapy too. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. So not a fad, effective, just have to understand it. Good question. Very good question. Thanks, man.
Yeah, Devin. And just so you know, if you are interested in that percussion vibrating foam roller from Trigger Point, Omega Sports has it.
Bingo.
So not a fad. Definitely here to stay. All right. Next question. Yeah. All right. So Michael from Raleigh says, should you limit your cardio when you're trying to gain muscle weight?
Limit cardio for muscle? No, absolutely not. And actually, I mentioned this earlier. Cardio. Again, cardio means, and I'm assuming that you're referring to like running or long distance cycling. But cardio actually has a nice synergistic effect of strength training. And studies show that if you're going to do any type of strength training, you should probably do some cardio as well. So you shouldn't limit it, but you shouldn't be 90% of what you do. It should be kind of an adjunct to your strength training program. It's only going to help. Now flip that around, okay? If you're looking to have better cardio, should you, weight train or build muscle mass? Again, the answer is yes, you should. So no, you shouldn't limit it at all, but you should not have that as the dominant factor in your training program. If you're looking to gain muscle mass, you got to lift some heavy stuff. Absolutely.
All right. So stay active, continue to do some cardio, understand what your goals are, and you'll be able to achieve them. But don't dismiss one for the other.
Right. Correct.
All right.
Not this or that. It's both. Go figure.
That's right. Not this or that. Yeah. All right. Next question. All right. Jimmy from Charlotte. This is, I think, the last question that we have for you, Dr. Jablonka. Jimmy from Charlotte says, what workout apps do you like or recommend? That's a new trend, right? Especially during the pandemic. Yeah. Everyone was working on apps.
And to be honest with you, I don't really use an app, to be honest with you, because I have programming in the CrossFit gym. So, but from what I've spoken to, the big one that's super popular now is Peloton. You're going to pay for it, and I know that, but just like anything in this world, what you pay for is what you get, and that is top quality stuff. I haven't heard a single person that says the Peloton app was crap. So that would probably be the first place that I go. The second one that's been around for a while is GoWOD. GoWOD is fantastic as far as that. I know Fitbit also has their app too. I don't have much experience with that, but as far as Peloton and GoWOD, those are probably the best ones to go for as far as kind of the electronic programming that you're looking for. Those are the two the best ones that it probably steer you to. Again, you're going to get what you pay for, guys. So if you don't want to get a free app, you're going to get a free workout that may not be what you're looking for. So go ahead, fork out a little bit of money. It's going to pay off in the long run because it's going to be exactly what you need.
Yep, I would say Peloton is a fun fact that you don't actually have to own a Peloton to use the app.
That's true.
People don't realize that. You can actually, download the app, use the app, and do all the workouts without ever having to make that huge investment in their equipment. Although the equipment is very nice as well. And then one thing that I'd recommend, Jimmy, is what people don't realize is that a lot of local gyms and a lot of local fitness studios really pivoted during the pandemic. So you may be looking for an app, but you may just want to go to your local gyms. They may be online doing some fun videos, some good workout videos on YouTube or on their own website. We just had Stephanie McMillan from Rise and Flow Yoga on the show last week, And she talked about how she moved her whole business structure from a in-studio fitness yoga studio to an online virtual class. So you may be thinking app because that's the trendy word, Jimmy, but you may find that your local gyms are doing things online and digitally, and so you can still support your local guys as well.
No, tons. There's a lot of gyms that have been doing that. They kind of have this hybrid approach of, in class and online. And a lot of times it's live, sometimes it's recorded, and sometimes they have kind of predetermined workouts, which is kind of tough if you're going to do it on your own, but you have to make sure that you hold yourself accountable. And I think that's why people like the in-class stuff, because it keeps them accountable. But if you're one of those persons that can work out at home regularly at a certain place at a certain time, then that accountability will go further, and then you'll be able to kind of benefit from these online platforms as far as the workout routines. So yeah, good point, Del. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, well, so those were our questions. So see, easy breezy, right? No problem.
Yeah, Eddie. Those are good questions, guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, well, Dr. Jablonka, I want to thank you. Again, we mentioned how busy you are, so you took time out of your day, your busy schedule today, to go ahead and do the show with us. We've got some things that we're going to be able to push this out there. We're going to, obviously get the transcript going. We're going to go ahead and get this pushed out into our emails. I want to thank you for joining us today. I want to recommend everyone go to carolinamovementdoc.com. That's your website. And again, I'm going to give you a heads up that it's a sneak preview of more to come. And then, of course, follow, really, your content magic is happening on Carolina Movement Docs. That's at Carolina_movement_doc. So easy to find on Instagram. Tons of great videos. I would say check out your stories as well. You do a lot of great things. You do a lot of polling on your stories.
Yeah, polling and quizzes. I do daily quizzes. I try to keep it, simple but also informative to kind of give people, a little glimpse of what I do from a movement standpoint. So there's daily quizzes Monday through Friday, only because the weekends are dedicated to my family. So yeah, log on, take the quizzes. I don't judge. I just want to spread some knowledge, guys.
Yeah, there you go. And of course, we've got more podcasts on the way at podcast.omegasports.com.
Yes, you do. It's coming at you.
Well, Dr. Jablonka, thanks again for joining us. We'll have you on the show a lot more. I know we will. So I look forward to building an even stronger, neighborship with you with things to come.
I like it. Anything for my North Carolinians.
There you go. All right. You have a good one. Thank you.
You too. Thanks, guys. Signing out.
All right. All right, guys. Well, that was our show for today. We want to thank Dr. Scott Jablonka from Carolina Movement Doc for spending pretty much the whole hour with us, answering questions, talking about his business and what he's doing in the Charlotte area and beyond on his social media page. Definitely encourage you to follow him. Also, make sure, just a reminder for all you tennis fans that are out there, all you tennis players that are out there, make sure you're following Omega Sports and you're checking your emails, because we have a lot of tennis news coming your way, including our current promo, which is 2 free cans of tennis balls with a purchase of $75 or more on tennis shoes or tennis rackets. You can't beat that, okay? You can't beat that. You guys have a great day. Thanks for joining and checking out the show. Make sure you like us and let people know to check out the show every week at 3 o'clock on Wednesday. Have a great day.